Let's take those plain hooks that you have and make them fabulous in your favorite color using just a little bit of your favorite yarn. And we're gonna add a pom-pom because pom-poms make everything more fun. And what's cool about this is you can use your loom, whatever you have, whatever size, whatever shape, as long as you have between 9 and 12 pegs. And that number is going to depend on whether you're going to make the bigger, chunkier hook or your regular, smaller hooks. So let's be more precise. You're going to need 7.5 yards or 5 grams of yarn, any loom with 9 to 12 pegs, and optional, a 2 bead, a cat bead, and a threader. All right, without any further time wasted, let's drawstring cast on 9 pegs. We're going to use a single strand of worsted weight yarn, and I'm going to use a basic knot to secure the yarn to the anchor peg. You can use a slip knot if you're more comfortable, and then take the working yarn between the first and last peg. Any direction you want to go to, it doesn't matter, this is going to work fine. And then you're going to take the working yarn and go in and out behind one peg in front of the other. It'll be sort of in a zigzag method, and you're just going behind one peg in front of the other, and you keep going doing this until you've done 9 pegs. And then you're going to turn around because we're knitting flat, so we're going in the opposite direction, and you're going to take the working yarn and put it over a few of the pegs. Take your hook and you're going to take the bottom loop over the top on every peg that has 2 loops, and basically it's every other peg that has one except peg 1 does not. So when you knit off peg 2, you're done with the cast on, and we're ready now for rows 1 through 20, where you're going to knit 9 pegs, or in other words, you're going to knit the row. So only on row 1, peg 1, you're basically going to skip it. So you're going to turn around. Did you see how I did that? It's like a figure 8. So you take the working yarn and you go from the front of peg 1 to the back and then cross over. And that's how you're turning, because peg 1 does not have a loop on it. And so you're not going to knit that one, only on row 1 on peg 1. All right, so this row we're going to knit 8 pegs because we're going to knit all of the pegs. And I'm going to be using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. You can use the flat or the true, but not the E-wrap, okay? Because it'll totally change the pattern. And so to do the U-wrap, as you can see, you're going to take the working yarn and you're going to half wrap the peg, and then with the hook you're going to knit off. And that's all you're going to do. Again, this is row 1. You need to do 20 of them, and you're knitting flat, which means you're going back and forth, not in the round. You're not doing a circle. So every time you get to that last peg, you're going to turn around. And this time you have loops on every peg. So all you have to do is take the working yarn and put it over the existing loop and knit off. Now when I go in this direction, I like to use the flat version of the knit stitch only because it's more comfortable for me. And so I'm just laying my yarn flat over the existing loop and then take the bottom loop over the top and knit off. While you continue knitting, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Carol Maple from Promise Learning ATL, Elise Bertrand, Penny Pitchard, Kristen Stone, Barbara Ledger, and Mackenzie LeBaron for covering the cost of closed captioning. Thank you, ladies. Once you're finished with a few rows, don't forget to take the knot off the anchor peg. At this point, your yarn is secure and you don't need it anymore. Once you're done knitting your 20 rows, you're ready for the cast off, and we're going to be doing the drawstring cast off, also known as the gathered method. So first take your working yarn and you're going to lay it flat over 12 to 15 pegs, because what you want is a very long tail. You're going to need this to sew, and so try to make it as long as you can. Now you could take the hook from above through peg 1 through all of them, but I want to make this top a little smaller, so I'm going to take the loop off peg 1, put it on peg 2, and knit off. And then I'm going to go to peg 9, take it off, take the loop off the peg and bring it over to 8, and then I'm going to knit off. So now instead of 9 loops, I have 7. And then I take the working yarn and I'm going to start from the top. I'm going to feed the yarn through all 7 pegs. Now, if this is too difficult, the decrease is too much for you, then just leave it as 9 and feed the yarn through all 9. But this is going to give you a neater look by decreasing the top one, because that's the one you're going to use where the hook is, where the metal is. And then once you've fed the yarn through all of your loops, then you can take the loops off the peg. And by the way, we're knitting the smaller hook. Just stay with me. At the end I'll tell you how to make it a larger. Now the next thing is to stretch your stitches, and this is very important. As you can see, the fabric will be the wrong size if you don't do this. It's just not going to work out. So make sure all of your stitches are stretched out, and you see how they change the look and the size when you stretch them. See that? That's why you need to do this. Very important. And now it starts to look more tubular. Now put that to the side, and we're going to work on our pom-pom. And you don't have to if you don't want to, but we need about 2 inches. So 3 of my fingers is 3 inches. You can also cut a piece of board that's 3 inches and wrap about 25 times. And then we're going to take that off, cut, and you're going to take a string and tie it in the middle, and you got to make sure that you tie it very, very tight or your strings will come out. So once I know that I have it tight enough, then I go ahead and I do my second knot. And you need to leave enough string so that you can attach this to the hook. And then with a nice sharp pair of scissors, you're going to cut those loops to create your pom-pom. And you need a nice sharp pair of scissors. By the way, if you like these that I have that you see, I have these in my store, and I'll put a link in the description. They're super nice and very sharp. And this is how I make sure that my pom-pom is even everywhere, is I kind of put it flat. Now I promised to give you some information on the large hook. So let me tell you, the only thing you're going to need to do is, instead of casting 9 pegs, you're going to cast 12. Instead of 20 rows, you're going to do 23, and then you're going to cast off just like you did with the smaller hook. It's that simple to go from a big hook to a little hook. If you have a flower loom, then you can just knit in the round, and then you don't have to sew like you will have to do now because you're knitting flat. And hopefully that's not too confusing for you. All right, now when your pom-pom is done, you're ready to sew the fabric onto your hook and attach the pom-pom. So make sure you have everything you need, your cute pom-pom, and you have your fabric and some scissors and your threader, and hopefully your cap and your tube cap. All right, so now you have your fabric, and we're going to pull on those drawstrings to kind of close them up like so. And you might want to mark which side is the top part. Remember, we did the decrease, and that's the side you want to use for the top portion. And then you're going to go ahead and get your hook and close up those 2 sides. And now we're ready to sew. And to sew this, you're going to sew from the top down, right? Because you need your string to be on the other side. So get your thread, get your needle and thread your yarn. And now we're going to put the top drawstring through that top part, which is, like I said, where we did the decrease, and we're going to put the string through that top set of loops, okay? And that's going to help us close everything up. And now what we want to do is sew in a way that it doesn't show up. And so you want to come through these loops right here on the inside and go from side. We're going from side to side now, right? And then you're going to go up and to the side and try to stay within those inner of the, you know, it forms like a V shape. So you want the two that are in the inside, because then that looks like just another row of knitting if you do this correctly. If you don't do that, then you're going to kind of be able to see that it was sewn together, and that's not what you want. You want it to look like your knitting was in the round and all the rows look the same. So you see how I get those two inner parts of the V that is shaped by your knitting. And then just keep going. You're going to continue to sew until you get to the other end of the hook where you're going to place the pom-pom. So that's why you start at the top and then head down. So now, as you can see here, I didn't leave myself a long enough tail, and so I'm going to have some difficulty at the top. This is why I say you need to try to make it as long as possible, so that you don't have to, you know, have that little bit of yarn to work with. So now you get the other drawstring, and just like you did with the other side, you're going to take your drawstring and you're going to feed it through those top loops. You see how I'm doing this right here? That's with the other string, and then bring it to the middle. You want it to come out from the middle of that opening that you closed up. And now we're going to first attach the cap, and I like to, you could use a needle, but I find that these are more problematic, so the threader just works better because it works good with thick yarn or thin yarn, and it fits through everything. So I'm going to be putting it right through here, and don't worry about that string is going to be hidden later on. I mean, you could have done it, I could have done it now, but I didn't. And as you can see, you have the direction of your cap is really important. So once you put it in, you can just feed it right through. And if your cap is in the wrong direction, it's not going to be facing in the direction that it's supposed to be. And then you're going to put in the little tube. This is called a bead tube, and the threader works on this too. You see how good that works? That's why the threader is so much better than finding the right needle. A needle is going to be a little more problematic. And you don't have to do this either. I just found that it makes it look so much better. It's I think it makes it look more decorative and fancy, so I prefer it that way. Alright, then you take the pom-pom and you take one of the two strings and tie that to your drawstring that you had, that you fed through the tube and the cap, and make 2 knots and tie it really, really good. You don't want your pom-pom to come off at any point, and then do that with the other string, because the pom-pom has 2 strings, so you want both of them tightened right along with that, with the one that came from your fabric that's on the hook, and then just cut them to fit the size of the rest of your pom-pom. And then I'm going to take a needle and feed this through because I want to hide it. And the reason I don't cut it off, the reason why I'm going to take a needle and feed that extra one through, is because it does kind of help it stay put. So don't cut it off. Just take the needle and feed it through, and you see how I'm getting it to the other side, which it would have been a whole lot easier if I had left enough of it out that I could have taken it all the way to the bottom, but I can only take it that far, and then I cut off the excess yarn. Now I want all these pieces secure, so I take a little bit of hot glue and this is not necessary either. You can also take some super glue or nothing at all, and I put it through these two pieces just to secure them to the yarn so that they're not moving around and distracting me when I'm knitting. So I prefer to do this with a low temperature glue gun, and I've done this to all of them. See, and they look great. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed the project. I hope you'll give me a thumbs up and share the video because it helps me a lot. And if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do that and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my next projects. Alright, bye.